Ruchem Abayim B'Shem Hashem, B'Shem Irgin Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Harav Yaakov Zev Smith Shlita, Adini Mekalkel B'Shabbos of Yom Tov. Constructive destruction on Shabbos. To have the great schus of sponsoring a shir called Irgin Shir Torah at 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
We heard a shayla, someone who made a big simcha, and he had a lot of disposable pans that were used, and it would take up a lot of room in the garbage. So he wanted to crush all the pans, and of course reduce the amount of garbage. And he wanted to know, is that a problem of soisa keli? He's breaking a chayra, what used to be a keli. Then I had a different shayla from a totally different angle, where someone was making a Shabbos simcha, and he had a warmer that he kept the food in, and people came Friday night uninvited, and they were making tayameha. They were taking kugel, whatever, chalent, and he wanted to make sure no one tampers, so he got a tape and put it around the warmer. So this way, no one's going to open it. The shayla was Shabbos morning, he said, mutter to cut the tape to be able to get to the food in the warmer. So this began my journey on really a challenging agenda, because really it's two malachas that we're going to discuss, but it really has the same guidelines. And that is the one we know is the malacha of saisa, about not allowed to destroy a keli. So the question is, when you destroy a disposable pan, is that the melacha of saisa keli? You're breaking the disposable pan. Cutting the tape is not saisa keli, it's not a keli, but that might be the issa of kareya. You're tearing tape, like tearing paper or tearing anything else. The chayr might be that melacha of kareya. You'll say, but it's lemaisa, it's mekalkel, you're destroying it. True, but that's the Mishnah in Shabbos Kuf Hey Amud Beis. The Mishnah says kala mekalkel and peturin. Mekalkel is not an issa deraisa. We'll soon see if you soisa something for a purpose, that's a melacha deraisa. Destruction is an issa derabanan, but it's still an issa derabanan. So whether it's breaking a aluminum pan, which is mekalkel, or tearing the tape, but there's a reason for it. So this is our sugya for today. We gave an interesting name, constructive destruction. You're not stam a meshugana that's breaking things. You're breaking the pans to make room in the garbage. You're tearing the tape to get to the warmer, and many other questions. So the Welt says, the Hainu de AdarII, you're allowed to destroy something for achila, to be able to eat, which at first glance is far from convincing, because you're not allowed to cook for oichel nefesh on Shabbos. Why are you allowed to destroy? This is a new het to oichel nefesh. So we have a Tosefta that we have to learn, and the Tosefta is in Beya Peri Gimel Halacha Tes, which is a big yesod for our sugya plus. So up to Tosefta, kareya adam esa'ar al pi achavi. So right away you have to underline the word kareya. I thought you're not allowed to make kareya on Shabbos. One of the malachas. The Tosefta is allowing someone to tear the leather al pi achavi shel yayin or bilvad shel yischaben lasek zinik. So let me explain very simply. In those days they didn't have bottles and cans. They kept wine in a barrel. Now, they sealed the barrel with leather. They had somehow of connecting the leather strip to the barrel. And now will come Shabbos. You want to make kiddush. You had to get the wine out of the barrel. So says the Tosefta, you're allowed to tear the leather to gain access to the barrel of wine. But don't make it into a spout. You'll cut it in a certain way that now it's a functional spout. So that's the melacha of makeh b'patish. You're taking a piece of leather and make it into a spout. So what do you want to do? You want to make kiddush? You destroy, you tear through the leather, and that would basically ruin the leather, and it's mutter. Oh. The question is, why is kareya mutter? Why is that the issa of kareya? Just like we see if you make a spout is asa, why is there's no issa of kareya? A lot has been written, as we'll soon see, but the most accepted psak in halacha, based on Chayodam and Chavtes Dalet, the Kitzah and Pei, Nunal, so the same thing, that even though Mekalkel is asa, but it's no more than issa d'Rabbanan, umutter l'tzoyrech Shabbos. So when we say it's mutter for oichel nefesh, close. That's the Chayodam, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. There's a beautiful tshuva in the Tshuva Shai. Aleph, he quotes other Rishonim that Lamaisa, there is a Issa of Kareya. But if it's a Tzorech Shabbos, it's Mutter. Now you'll ask me, well, if it's Kareya, why do you need Tzorech Shabbos? Teretz says, no. Kareya is Asa, even Mekalkel. But Tzorech Shabbos overrides. Now, before we apply this to the myriad of questions, I have to be magdim one more yisoid. And this is a Mishnah in Shabbos Kuf Memvav. Zok the Mishnah Shoiver Adam es a Chaviyos. Again, a barrel. That was their most used type of storaging. You're allowed to break a barrel. Lechalem and igroigris. Now this is not wine. This is groigris. This is fruits, dried fruit. Ubilvad shelo yischaben lasis keli. Again, same lashon. You have a barrel and you want to get to the food. You're allowed to break the barrel. But don't make it into a fancy opening. Then you're making an opening. So it's the very similar lashon, ubilvad shelo yischaben, like the Tosefta. But there's one big difference. Tosefta was talking about tearing a piece of leather, which in the worst scenarios, the issa of kareya. This is l'chayr breaking a barrel. Breaking a barrel is the issa of soisa. Boina, this is soisa. So the question is, why is there no issa of soisa keli? You're breaking a barrel. So Rashi says, very tmimistic, the aim be mekalkel shum issa d'Rabbanan. There's nothing wrong with being mekalkel. Frek Duran, back in the Gemara, Pliya. The Mishnah says mekalkel is the Rabbanan. Zokti Ran, and this is probably the biggest yisod for today, that Lamaisa Hainu Taima, you're right, mekalkel is the Rabbanan. Mishum Tzorech Shabbos, Shari Lechatchila. You want to get to Gregorus, you can't get to Gregorus, and you're allowed to. He does add that there is a Mishnah in Shabbos, in Erevin, that we see you're not mekel soisa, even Eichel Nefesh, we'll soon discuss that. But no doubt about it, we have two sources for our big question. We have the Tosefta, you're allowed to tear leather, and the bigger chiddush, you have the Mishnah, Shabbos Kuf Memvav, you're allowed to break a keli. The Meiri on our Gemara in Shabbos, HaMekalkel Tzorech Eichel Nefesh Mutar Lechatchila. Now you notice there's a big difference. The Ran's lashon is Tzorech Shabbos, which might include even opening a package of plastic cups. You're not eating the cups. But the Meiri says Eichel Nefesh. Now Lamaisa, Tosfos himself on that Gemara has a different shot. And Tosfos says, you know why you're allowed to break this chavius? It's not your regular chavius. The Meiri ben Mustaki, and he quotes the Gemara in Bay, and let me give a little background. Tosfos seems to hold you're not allowed to break a keli, even for Eichel Nefesh. Not like the Ran. But if the keli is broken mi'ikara, like the way he says, chavius shvura umedavkin shvareha, the keli was broken, and you put it together, a half a job. If you sneeze too hard, it's going to break again. Bikitza, this barrel is not a full-fledged barrel. So to quote the slang language that we talk, if it ain't fixed, you can't break it. In other words, if it's not a keli, you can't be oiva sois a keli if it's not a keli. So that's what Tosfos learns, the sugya. It's not all keli. A keli that's shvach, and we'll soon see if we could apply that to our disposable pans. But a keli that's a mustaki, a shvacha keli, it's almost shvur mi'ikara. There's no issa soisa if it's not a keli. And the Shulchan Aruch in Shin Yud Aleph Tzif Aleph quotes this Mishnah lahakol, and he mentions the concept of mustaki. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, wait a second. If you're telling me it's not a keli, it's a mustaki, so why do you have to have a heta of Eichel Nefesh? If it's not broken, if it's not a keli, you can't break it, why do you need Eichel Nefesh? Zog the Prima Godim in the beginning of Shin Yodalid, even though it's not a keli, breaking things shaloi l'tzorech on Shabbos is awesome. It looks like you're breaking. Someone once asked me, he's in the mood, he takes the twig and he wants to break it in half. The twig is not a keli. So I told him, first of all, the twig is muktzah. But besides muktzah, The Mishnah Berurah says, we'll soon see, that breaking something for no reason, which looks like a melacha, should not be done. Chazal permitted it b'makom tzayrich eichel nefesh. That's true. But it has the tzuras ha-melacha, it's only mutter b'makom eichel nefesh. So we have two sources, the Tosefta regarding the leather, the Mishnah regarding the keli. Now we're going to go through all the shaylas. It's going to be simple. We'll have a shayla, we'll say Tosefta, or shayla, Mishnah, Shabbos, because one of the two will guide us the rest of the shir. So we're going to first discuss safety seals, which today is unavoidable. Everything has a safety seal. So let me be moisvayda once and for all. We're talking about that you're not tearing through lettering, because once you get through tearing lettering, different shayla. We're talking that you're able to avoid lettering. So the emes is that this is a perfect example of oral piachavia. So let me explain. I brought along some little show and tell for today, but this bottle of grape juice is fully made, no problem. The only problem is that there's a safety seal that happens to be, in this case, it is aluminum foil, sometimes it's plastic, but the keli is made. What you have to do is tear this off, which I'm not going to do now, but you can see you tear it off. You're not making a keli. What you're doing is you're tearing the oral piachavias. So this is be muta l'tzayrech, achila t'tzayrech Shabbos. L'maisa, it's made. Now, this is very different than once you take off the seal, you're going to twist off the cap, because that many poskim hold you're making the cap. Because the cap was sealed on, it was ois keli. By taking off a soda bottle, a wine, etc., it's ois keli. But the wine bottles that just have a white cap that screws on and off, that is no shaila. Because the safety seal in all the different types is no more than a contemporary oral piachavis. You'll open you have a dip, you open it up, there's a plastic covering. Can you tear through that? Oral piachavis. So it comes in different forms and shapes, but safety seals across the board are no more than oral piachavis. Our original question that we asked, someone wants to put tape around his warmer. I heard this from a mashgiach. He wanted to put his tape around the warmer, so no one should tamper with it. So l'chayra, this should be no difference. Oral piachavias or tape al gabi warmer. It's la'oichel nefesh, should be mut. However, we come to an incredible chiddush of the Pichodosh. The Pichodosh is in a different context. In Yeredeya, Kuf Yud Ches, Sid Kot Yud Ches, he was asked about a kashrus issue, where Yidden would keep their chamen, the cholent, in a goyish oven. I guess there was no problem of the blias of the oven, but they wanted to make sure the guy would not open it and take some at night. So they put paper, they had a double seal. They first locked the oven, number one, and they wanted to be firm, they put paper on the lock, so if it's tampered with, it will be noticeable. So the problem is, very good, it's kosher, double kashrus. What's that to tear the paper? So, Zok the Pri Chodosh, don't be so firm and don't put a paper seal on it. Because you're going to have to tear the paper, and that's the issa of Kaireya. But listen to his taina. Milsa the Pshita, that's an issa deraisa of tearing the paper seal on the lock. Why deraisa? It's Mekalkel. It's not Mekalkel. You're Masakin. Because till now you can't gain access to the cholent. By taking off the paper seal, you're gaining access to the cholent, and that's a Masakin, and it's an issa deraisa. In other words, he's telling us that constructive destruction is melacha deraisa. You're gaining access to the cholent. And he adds a different point. He says, don't bring me a raya from the minig. Don't forget he was a Svardi. But the minig of both Svardim and Ashkenazim, that they have a guy open a letter, an envelope, here's an envelope to get to the letter. So you see, allowed to do it. He says, don't bring me a raya from minig toys. It's wrong. In other words, the Pri Chodosh in that short shtickle, he says, tearing the tape around the warmer, opening letters, taking off safety seals from wines inside or outside, any place it is melacha deraisa. So he says, don't be firm, rely on chaysem echad, and lock it out to open on Shabbos. Now, obviously, this is a big chiddush. And we could almost say, Iba Yisei Mekra, Iba Yisei Mesvar. First of all, Iba Yisei Mesvar. The melacha of Kareya is only asa almanas litvar midaraisa, which is the Mishkan, that they made the areas, and there was a hole, whatever it was, and you didn't just patch it. You cut around to put in a patch, to make it nice, to weave it nicely. So the Kareya was very much constructed almanas litvar. That's the real Kareya. The Mishtabur and Shin Mem Gimel says a big chiddush. It doesn't sound like a chiddush, but it's a big chiddush. And he says, Lav dafka Kareya manas litvar is a deraisa. If you tear something to use it, it's also a deraisa, even though it's not a manas litvar. He gives an example in Sifkat and Mem Aleph Mishtabura. If you have a big piece of paper, and you have to make it into ashiyatza paper, into tissue paper. So you cut up from a big piece into small pieces to use is a melacha deraisa. Now really that's a chiddush, because it's not a manas litvar, but that's constructive tearing. Okay, so we have two levels. A manas litvar is the worst, and tearing paper to use is bad enough. But who says getting rid of a tape makes it into melacha deraisa? It's a big chiddush. But Iba Yisei Makra. Didn't we just see a Tosefta? You'll add it here, the RLP Achavias, and the Tosefta does not say it's asa because it's melacha tzricha legufa, because you're gaining access to the wine. And Takar of Moshe Chelik Aleph Kuf Chav Beis Chesti Chazon Yecheskel on the Tosefta, both asked this on the Pri Chodesh. Now I must tell you, the Pri Chodesh was the Pri Chodesh. He doesn't need more than that. The Bi'alacha in Shin Mem, the end of Sif Yud Gimel, tries to explain the Pri Chodesh that he holds with the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda, Melacha and Tzricha Legufah is the Rambam Pasuk is chayiv, and this is constructive enough. Okay, it's a pshat. But I wanted to tell you before we move on that Lamaisa, there is a lot to say about the Pri Chodesh. You know, the Knei Boisim and Chelik Aleph Simon Chav Beis devotes 28 pages of his tshuva, which is very atypical of him, to prove that Pri Chodesh is right, and therefore you have to open all seals, bottles, covering, everything before Shabbos. So Pri Chodesh knew what he was talking about. But most Paiskim do reject the Pri Chodesh. I'll read you the Lashon of the Chacham Tzvi in Simalam Bates. He discusses the kashrus issue, if you need two chesamis or one. That's the bulk of his tshuva. But at the end he says, what the Pri Chodesh says, that don't use two, use one, because if you tear off the paper, it's a melacha deraisa. This is Lashon Toyiz Gama, V'shara Leimare. And he says, the Pri Chodesh was guilty of being matir the Issa and asering the mutter. He said use one seal instead of two, that's wrong. And he said don't tear when you're allowed to tear. And I'm only reading this for a reason, I'll tell you in a moment why. And he concludes, V'farchachtiv al panav, I gave it to him, imanu, v'shasikli. Now don't forget, the Pri Chodesh lived in Eretz Yisrael, in Shalayim, he's a Ram Shalayim, and the Chacham Tzvi in Amsterdam. But he must have passed through, and he said, I gave it to him, and he was quiet, shtika kaidah. Now, why did I read this sharp lashon? Because the Maisa, the Paiskim did not accept the Pri Chodesh. And the taina is, like we said, it's not constructive. It's getting rid of a problem. It's a Meisa Maineya. So that's why safety seals is mutter, and we'll soon discuss envelopes. Now, sometimes you have on a safety seal that it says, it's sort of, it makes it easy to tear. It says they point an arrow, tear here. So it tears easier. This one it doesn't have, but very often these type of packaging, the little tab sticking out, and you pull the tab around, so it tears off easy. That's no problem at all, because you're not being mechatech to size. The issa of tear here is when you cut a paper towel, you're making the paper towel to size. That's the issa mechatech. But this is just making it easy to be kareya, l'tzayrich oichel. So what's wrong with doing things easy? So if it says tear here, that's making the heta easier to do. But don't confuse that with what people know is wrong. If you have a box of tissues, you forgot to punch out the center, so you tear around the perforated edge, that's a problem, because you're making a box of tissues, a functional box of tissues. Or you tear a tablecloth, and you tear it at the perforated line down the center of it, you're making a tablecloth. We're talking about that it makes it easier to tear, but at the end of the day, it's one big Mekalkel. And that should not be a problem. Now, once I mentioned that, I should tell you that we'll soon discuss this, but tearing the tablecloth has nothing to do with our heta. You're making a functional tablecloth. A lollipop wrapper, and you want to tear it off, so that would be an aronkodesh. Plus, the whole wrapper is one big mustaki. It's flimsy, it's broken almost before you start. Tearing a wafer wrapper off the wafer, if there's no lettering, again, is an aronkodesh, and it's fine. A box of matzah, typically chametz matzah, or a lot of box of cereal, it's tricky because the same thing, tear here, and you pull a tab off the top of the box, right down the center, but that's much worse. There it's not just making it easier to tear. There you're making the box. And AdarII, you could close the box, it has a fold, it has a flap, it's a whole fancy paper box. But lamaisa, there the tear here is facilitating making a box. So that's why Avada should be done before Shabbos. Now there's a whole different sugya of making a keli that's some place my Mikkel, because of a different sugya, will leave a different share. That's called het of choisel, is just a container. We're not getting into that now. But making a tear here on a safety seal is fine. Tear here on a box that makes the box functional is presumably a melacha deraisa, if you consider that a keli. What's more of a shaila, I couldn't find one in the house to bring it, but they have pre-packaged nuts or etc. But they used to make it in a package with a safety seal. Now it's a little fancier. It's packaged in a way that you can't open it as it is. You have to tear it on the side, a strip of leather off the side, and then you could open and close this plastic packaging of nuts and chocolate, etc., etc. Yeah. I don't know if it's Ziploc, because you don't reseal it. You tear off the plastic. Oh, that's another one. You tear off the plastic, and then you use a Ziploc. But I'm talking about these boxes, plastic and cartons, that you tear it off and you could use it. That is a real tikkun keli. Because pashtus, the keli, as it is not functional, and you're fashioning the keli. Now, this would also explain why tearing a tablecloth, disposable, I'm talking about in shuls, yeshivas, is a major problem. It's presumably a melacha deraisa. You're making a tablecloth. Now, people say you could use the roll without tearing, but it's very batlanish to use a roll and drop it down. But no doubt about it, I saw the Machzal and Chelik Bey, Simon Yod Gimel, Sif Kot and Gimel proves this. The fact that the tablecloth is disposable is not a heta for Makah B'Patish. Disposable might be a heta for Korea, or because it's not a keli, so you can't break a non-keli. But he proves this conclusively from the Gemara. It says you're not allowed to take a kisam lachtas b'shinav, even though it's disposable. But makeh b'patish, once you make something functional, that's the problem. So basically, a tablecloth should be a serious issa. And again, even idea akum l'chari, there's no heta if it's a melacha deraisa. But I want to add a point that brings us another beautiful part of our sugya. There is a number of malachas. I wouldn't say it's two halves because it's two malachas, but it's sort of like a set. Lamashal, if a sefer wrote a wrong letter, Chas Shalom on Shabbos, that is, he wrote an aleph and a dalet, so he has to correct it to an ayin and a hey. So you'll say, what's wrong with erasing? It's constructive. I'm not doing anything. Chas Shalom. Why? That's moichik. Amanas lichtay. Soisa, tearing down a building, is soisa. Amanas live nice is awesome. Another example is Korea Amanas Litva. So there's a connection between Korea and Taifa. That's probably the husband, the Rav, in Shin Mem, Sif Yud Gimel. Now you have to realize, the Rav says, if you tear leather to size, that's Mechatech. But Zok the Rav, and I want to magdim, the Rav writes this whole thing in parentheses. This whole chiddush I'm going to tell you now. darkei of the Rav was when he had a suffix, he put the halacha in parentheses. But here's a chiddush, a phenomenal chiddush. Zok the Rav, when you tear leather destructively to get to someplace, that tearing is not awesome. Even shalei l'tzorich. Why? Zok the Rav, the only issa of kareya is something that was woven, that was made with fibers, whether it's sewn or woven. Lamashal, a jacket, the riyas in the Mishkan, you made it through tefira. So kareya is undoing the tefira. But a piece of leather that's one piece, and we'll soon see a piece of plastic, a piece of paper, that's one shtick. If it did not use tefira to make it, then there's no issa kareya of tearing it. And where did he get this from? He got it from a Tosefta in Beya, Perigimel, halachic. He learned a different shot in the Tosefta. Why is it mutar kareya or al pi achavius? Not like the heta of Tzarech Shabbos. The heta is if it's one piece, if it's not tougher, there's no issa kareya. As I up the Rav. Now, Lamaisa, the Rav is the Rav, I don't have to tell you. But what I think the Hezber is, he doesn't spell it out, but probably that's what he means to say, that since Karei is the opposite of Toifa, it has to come from a Tefira. And I think I found the Hiras Nosson in Chelik Bey, Simon Dal, Tzivkot, and Hey, I think he means to say this also. He says, regarding the Hilchas Tumel, Hilchas Nida, paper is considered a keli. So why in Hilchas, in Karei it's not? He says, because Shabbos is a different standards. It's probably the Hezbollah because Shabbos, Toifer, and Karei is one. Now, Lamaisa, the big pella on the Rav is, as the Bialocha, the Nishmas Adam, the Chayodam, and Chav Tes Yud Beis, already asked this kasha, that there's Mefurish in the Yishalmi, in Shabbos Zayin Beis, that even by leather, there's regular Karei. And I saw also the Chazon Yecheskel on Tosefta asked this on the Rav. Now, Lamaisa, the way the Mishnah Berurah writes it very beautifully, Mashiratze echad min achrayim lahoitzi mizeh, he's referring to the Rav, Al Tzkvay didn't mention his name, is very shver. Now, Lamaisa, the Ksais HaShulchan and Kuf Mem Hey, Tzi Beis, does prove that the Rav is correct, but Lamaisa we see that we cannot accept this chiddush of the Rav, that tearing paper or leather or plastic is mutar across the board. But don't forget, tearing leather, plastic, or paper, when there's a Tzorech Shabbos, is mutar. I did see one of the Heintige Poiskim, he says maybe if the guy tore plastic tablecloths, but the Eved, you're allowed to use them, because maybe you could rely on the Rav that there's no Issa by plastic. But I think it's wrong. The Rav said beferish, without parentheses, Mechatech by leather is Asa, because Mechatech is Mocham. So plastic tablecloths, especially cut on the lines, is a real Mechatech. So Lamaisa, tablecloths should be open before Shabbos, no doubt about it. Someone asked me what he thought was a challenging question. He bought a fancy wine for Shabbos, and you have to use a corkscrew to take out the cork. So it's basically a keli, you screw it in, you pull out a cork. So that, although it sounds pretty sophisticated, is mutlach atchila. Because the wine bottle was made and you're not making it. You're not making the cork was made. I'll give you a mashal, not a good mashal, like taking the stuff out of the mikveh. That's basically what it is. The cork is a form of a stopper. It happens to be, it's put in a more secure way. But this cork is made and the wine is made and Taka the Marsayo and Chele Gimel Nun Beis is Mekel. Someone bought a cake in a box. Rather soon matzah comes in a box. And there's a string around it. So avada to untie the string is a melacha gemura of matir, untying. But it's mutter to tear the string in a destructive way because, again, you're not making the box and the string you're basically destroying. So that's why it's pashut. The Bialacha in Shin Yadal Tziv Ches has another tzati mekel that on this string it's never shaykh amanas litvar. So once it's not shaykh amanas litvar, then there's no issa of karei. But what I did see a big chiddush, I want to hear what I have to say about this, in the Tzeif Pia Pascha B'Chachma, that's the psakim of the Machzor Liyo, in Amit Tzadik Tes, he says, very often you buy, I'm in a camp in Yeshiva, I have this all the time, they have sliced challah, It comes in a regular plastic bag, and there's a red tape. I don't have this in my house, but a red tape that very securely holds the bag almost airtight. And when you're ready, you just cut through the tape. It's like a little, probably less than an inch. And the red tape comes off, you open the bag, and you have challah. It's typically challah and cake to keep it fresh. It's also a good safety seal. So he says that's much worse than cutting the string. Because the bag, when it's tightened like that, is not functional. So the problem is not tearing through the red tape. That's a choisel, that's a mamish kareya, that's the case of the safety seal. But you're making the bag from dysfunctional to functional. He says if the bag was closed to keep for less than 7 days, that never became attached. But if it's made for more than 7 days, it's considered ois bag, and opening it is making a bag. I don't understand that. But one thing I will say, the good news is challah, cake, any food is typically not made to keep closed for more than 7 days. But this is what he wants to say, that you're making the bag. Ayin Sham, he does say, I know that since Lamaisa it can't be used, you have to sort of reopen it. So Ayin Sham B'timtza. Someone asked this question. He had a bag of cups, plastic, the regular cold cups in its regular plastic cover. Can he open a plastic bag over cups, cutlery? I had a very more sophisticated child. Someone got in the mail a beautiful kuntras that the yeshiva sent out. And it came on Friday, no shiloh of muktzah, but it came in a plastic cover, and he forgot to open it before Shabbos. And he wanted to tear the plastic cover, no different like a plastic bag on cups, and use the kuntras. See, I'm not saying magazine, because magazine, we can live without it on Shabbos. But let's talk about the kuntras. So the MS is, here we come to an interesting question. Is the heta of Korea, derech kilkel, mutter v'tzoyrech Shabbos? Then all this is mutter. Or is it only because of oichel, and you're not eating the kuntras? So the MS is, if you start from the shayris, you'll get pretty good guidance, maybe a little mixed message. But the Ran said that's mutter l'tzoyrech Shabbos. The Tosefta and the Gemara, the Mishnah and Shabbos, are both talking about oichel. Shabbos talking about Gregris. The Tosefta is talking about wine. The Meiri, unlike the Iran, says l'tzorech oichel nefesh is mutter. So that's pretty much mixed messages. The Chayodim and the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says the heta is you're allowed to be kareya kilkol l'tzorech Shabbos. So Lamaisa, as you see, there's enough l'shaynis in the Paiskim that tzorech Shabbos is the heta. I saw the Shmir Shabbos in Tezvav Pei. He brings a Kafachayim and Tafko Pei Vav Sif Cotton Kuf Nem, quoting a Tashbitz. You're allowed to break a container to get to a shofar. A shofar is not an achila. Reb Shlomo Zalman Taka goes with that shita, and he writes if someone has socks in a plastic cover, whatever, plastic in a container, but a wrapper, you're allowed to tear the wrapper to get to the socks to wear them on Shabbos. Rav Moshe in Chelik Aleph Kuf Chabeis Kan Ches is also matter lav dafka oichel and itzorich Shabbos. But the problem here is that the Paiskim, even the Paiskim that are Mekel with opening an envelope, destroying an envelope, are only matter v'sunsi adi akum. It could be the heta is only oichel nefesh, and maybe envelopes would not be included. But one thing I will say, that as I told you earlier, breaking things for no tzoyrech, that the Mishnah Berurah and Shinches Sif Cotton Lamed, he says, stepping on a broken keli with kavanah to break a broken keli is us. It's broken. Teretz is, you're doing the tzuras hamalacha, and don't do it unless it's a tzoyrech of Shabbos or oichel nefesh. Question: someone got a longer way to tshuva from a gadol in the mail. He came Friday afternoon, no shiloh of muktzah. He forgot to open it before Shabbos. Can he tear the envelope in a destructive way to read the letter, which of course is a real tzorech Shabbos? So if you hold it's only oichel nefesh, that's mutter, so this is not oichel nefesh. But let's assume we'll be saimach on the mekilim, that's lav dafka oichel, it's tzorech Shabbos. So until today, we would say, chas v'shalom, opening a letter, which yid opens a letter? Now, we'll say, what's the problem? If it's Mekalkel, the tzorech Shabbos, what's the problem? But the problem is a pretty serious one. Loimi boy like the Pri Chadash that discusses this very question and calls it a Melacha Daraisa. We don't do Melachas Daraisa on Shabbos. But even the Chacham Tzvi that took exception, he only was Matir, L'choira, Aydei Akum. And the question is, why Aydei Akum? If you're assuming it's Tzorech Shabbos, why are they Akum? So the teretz probably is AdarII. If a letter is only Tzorech Shabbos, maybe these Paiskim held, there's no het to Tzorech Shabbos, it's only Oichel Nefesh. Or, number two, maybe the only het is if it's a real Tzorech Shabbos. If you could wait to read it after Shabbos, so maybe covered Shabbos would be to wait. Again, maybe the tshuva you want to read, I'm not going to get into the details, but you have to make sure that it's a Tzorech Shabbos. Now, Lamaisa, the Shmira Shabbos, in Chav Ches, Yud Ches, holds it's mutter to tear an envelope, but he writes there, he adds, he said that, halacha shaloi Lamaisa. Lamaisa, the Evan Yisrael, B'Srael Angafisha, and Chelik Zayin, the end of Tez Zayin, mutter lev toich igras ha-muna potech niyar, achar, das ha-chacham tzvi. I don't know if he means Ayidei Akum or Yisrael, but he's definitely matir to open it when there's a need, Ayidei Akum for sure. But I think it's a combination of two things. First of all, some hold you have to have oichel. And also, is this really a tzorech? Now, but I'll give you a mashal that all agree is asa, but you might feel a little old, so I'm warning you. I said in the yeshiva that you have a airmail letter. Baruch said, what's that? You remember that, aerogram? It was sort of a blue, very thin paper, and you wrote a letter to send there to Yisrael. Those are the days that people wrote letters before texting and, or not writing the cloud. But anyhow, and you wrote it and you sealed it. The receiver got a sealed letter, and opening was not destroying an envelope, was making this aerogram. So that all the Paiskim say is a real tikkun, a tikkun goma. Now that's why if you know the Paiskim, they discuss if there's a, Mr. Brewer already says it, if it's a piece on an envelope on top of the letter. What do they mean? The same thing. You know, some invitations today come the same way. Not something that's made, but you put together by a little sticker. It's closed in a way that when you open it, you actually fashion that letter or whatever it is. So Lamais, at the end of the day, I can't say it's wrong to open a letter. If someone feels it's a Tzorech Shabbos and he's convinced it's lav dafka oichel, avada if he destroys it. But this person that asked, he got a letter from Adam Gadol and he wasn't going to destroy the envelope because the Gadol wrote his name, when he sent the address. So he wanted to make a functional envelope to store the letter in it. That's something like an aerogram. That's something like the other case, which avad is a problem. Our Paisik, the Mishnah and Shin Mem, Sif Kot and Mem Aleph, says to open a letter, he says, first be careful with the lettering, but he writes, Asa l'kula alma, afil loima la'akum, yesh lizar, im loy l'tzoyrech gadol. So apparently Mr. Brewer is either chayish that it's not a tzoyrech, or maybe only oichel. Mr. Brewer and Bialacha, he explains what he writes there, but he definitely says that we should not open letters. Don't forget, the Pri Chadash was the Pri Chadash, leinim it's a Melacha Daraisa. The Chazanish, sort of an Eigen Gzeira in Samach Aleph, Sif Cotton Bays, he says, don't open letterings because sometimes you want to reuse the envelope and then you're making an envelope. The Rav Nissen Karelitz in Chutshani, Chelegal, the end of Ahmed Kuf Memvav, says Beferish, that really it should be mutter, but he says that Lamaisa, since sometimes you want to reuse the envelope, you're making the envelope, and that's why it's us. So I think again, it's something that we could live without it, so let's be more Shem Shabbos. Someone asked this question, that basically, he got a his kuntres in the mail. Okay, similar shaila, and it's basically just a plastic wrapper that keeps it from getting dirty. Is there any more of a heta? I told him that might be more mutter, because there's no way that you make a plastic container out of the plastic bag. In other words, an envelope, a big part of the problem is you might open the envelope to reuse the envelope. But this plastic cover on the kuntres is no different than a plastic bag on cutlery or socks or plastic cups. So if you're convinced that there's no issa, if it's Tzorech Shabbos, lav dafka oichel nefesh, I believe the kuntres should not be any different, because you're not going to make a container out of the plastic a plastic covering. Someone got a package of napkins, I think it was fancier napkins, and there's a place in the center that you cut out, you pick it up, whatever, and now you have a nice dispenser that gives you napkins one at a time. So that is a problem. That's a kareya b'derech tikkun. Now, so you might say, but the whole plastic is not a keli, it's a plastic wrapper, so maybe that might be mustaki, but if it's functional as it is, that's a problem. The eitzah to avoid all showers would be tear apart the bag entirely. You'll put the napkins in a different place, but that's a kareya, they're a kilkul, l'tzayrech, and we could say probably oichel nefesh, this is part of the suda, napkins, cutlery, even though you're not eating it, cups, those probably are more like the tzarech achila, and you could be mekel. Someone asked me, has a little of nervin, that's why I told him this, he's afraid to use the regular paper towels in the shul, not the ones that you tear off. You know, it comes in the stacks. So what's the problem? Because sometimes the paper towel tears. It happens. I told them, first of all, that's at most a davar she'eino mischaven, and that's mutter. Not pshat suffik is it, it's a vadei heter. That's what we paskin. More so, in the worst scenario, if he does tear a paper towel, that's a real kilkul, with absolutely no benefit. It just makes him nervous. So I told him, today till 120, use paper towels, don't ask again. I hope it works, but that's the truth, because that's the best scenario. To mention this, to show you how versatile this sugya is, we have this child in the mountains, but it can be again in the city. You have a spider web, a spin web in Yiddish, and it's not sightly. You want to remove it on Shabbos. So the Shmir Shabbos quotes from earlier Poskim, Shmir Shabbos in Chav Gimel Amud Zayin, that since it's connected, that might be kareya, besides muktzah. So avad you can't tear this spider web on Shabbos. So Mizalman says davar teimahu, to say that it's considered tzoisa, that it's tolush, it's considered mechuba, as he's learning it's tzoisa, but it had enough of a connection that's considered tzoisa. He says, so therefore, if it's disturbing, so even though it's muktzah, but graf sori. But I want to mention Mr. Bura twice, I'm not sure why, but twice in Reish Nun Sif Katan Gimel and Reish Samach Beis Sif Katan Gimel, he writes he's supposed to get rid of the spin web in Erev Shabbos. Al Pikabol is big in Yonim. So do it Erev Shabbos. But if you forgot to do it Erev Shabbos and it's disturbing on Shabbos, it's not enough of a chibur to be considered kareya, and muktzah, we mut the b'makom of the fact that it's a graf suri. Now, the last part of this shir is a few shilas that are really part of a different shir. Opening cans and bottles is not a regular achas, it needs a shir for itself. But one part of it is very much negeya to our sugya. And that is the question, if you have a pan, aluminum pan, a disposable pan, you finish using it and it's a big clumpy thing, you want to smash it up and put it in the garbage. If you have 20 of them after a simcha, it's even more common. The question is it mutter to crush a disposable pan? You know, this year Shabbos Haggadah is coming out a few days, mamish the day before B'dikas Chametz. They're going to make a mint on selling disposable cholent pots, which I've seen. So can you crush that? It's pretty easy to crush. It's pretty big otherwise. Someone told me that when he goes to a speech by Shever Brachas, when the longer the speaker goes, he gets more nervous, so he bites on a disposable fork until it breaks. So is he breaking it? Is it besides a keli? So our question is an interesting one. You're not breaking a classic keli. You're breaking a disposable keli. Is this a problem of soisa? Now we're shifting from kareya to soisa, but it's the same guidelines, the chayv. So the question is a very fundamental one. Can we say that a regular keli would be soisa? A disposable might be a mustaki before you started. Once it's a mustaki, then we have the heta of Shabbos kuf mem vav. That if it's a tzarech Shabbos, we'll soon see if it is, but if it's a tzarech Shabbos, it's mutter. So b'yesa bi or maybe b'yesa gishmak. Let me add a little more. If someone has a lock of his door that's jammed, it's broken, he has to replace it, but he wants to get into the room. So we'll soon see the police can say that's a major problem. Why? Because you're breaking a lock. A lock part of the house, even more chamer. And more so, it's really amanas livnis, because you have to take that out, get it out, and put another one in. This, what I told you, is the second half of the Ran and Toisa we began with. The Ran said there's a het of tzarech Shabbos to break the mustaki, but don't compare that, Zok the Ran, the same Gemara, to the Mishnah in Erev Daf Lamed Daled Amud Beis, where the Mishnah says to be able to carry in a chotza, you have to have an Erev, but you have to have access to the Erev. If the Erev is in a migdal that you don't have the key, maybe the Erev is no good. You have no access to the food. You could break the lock to get to the food, but that's soisa keli gomor, which is mechubal l'karka, is much more chama. Tosfos also references that contrast to soisa keli gomor. So what we see is when you're talking about a soisa keli gomor, there's no heta mustaki. That's pashat kipshutai. So the shaila is, how do we look at a disposable pan? So what came to mind is, well, what's the halacha? Do you have to toivel that disposable pan? Most don't. Why not? It's not a keli. Tfilas keli is based on a keli. That means you're identifying a disposable pan as a non-keli. So maybe it's a mustaki. And indeed, this sefer, Pia Pasa B'Chochma, page Yud Tes, writes it very in length and very dramatic, emphatically. He quotes Taka Rafalk, that a kli chad pami, a disposable pan or disposable fork, is a mustaki. Even though he points out a mustaki is fundamentally different. A mustaki was a keli that broke and is in a holding on for dear life. It's broken. But a disposable fork is not broken. It just used only once. But he said the lumdis is the same. The fact that it's cholosh, it doesn't last, it isn't used, it isn't reused. So his big chiddush is that a disposable item in any form is a mustaki. Once it's a mustaki, we have Shabbos, Kuf Mem Vav, that if it's a tzarech Shabbos, we'll soon see if letting out frustration is a tzarech Shabbos. But if it's a tzarech Shabbos, it should be mutter. And he does add that Lamaisa, that in the worst scenarios, it's a Mekalkel midrabanan, but this is his shita that and Itaka says, a little later in page Kuf Ches, Kuf's carton of these tavnis, aluminum, these disposable pans, and you want to make more room in the garbage, you're allowed to just crush it, because this is a mustaki, and he assumes that that's considered tzarech Shabbos. Now, I want to just make clear, if you just fold it in half, like typically you could do, it's not broken, so there's no shayla. I'm talking about it, you break with a vengeance, that is not usable. So this is his take on the matter, so to speak, that a disposable pan is not a keli. But I did see Rabbi Yashiv in a number of places, and this is a real shitasai. In Ashriya Ish Chelik Beis Omid Reish Lamed Vav, someone asked him, he has a kugel in an aluminum pan. So he wants to cut half the kugel and half the pan. Very practical. Cuts it straight down. Any sharp knife will cut the kugel and the pan. So he says it's a problem because you're making a keli. Because aluminum pan, even though it's only used once, is considered a keli. Now he says this regarding tfilas keli, that you have to toivel it, and he says this lakula, that you're allowed to make kiddush on a disposable becher, because it's a keli l'kol davar, which I understand. And in a different sefer, he says this regarding crushing aluminum pans, that it's a problem, because he says a disposable pan is considered a keli. Now, I guess he understood mustaki, something wrong with a bechefza. It's broken. But this is not broken. This is disposable. Rabbi Soyanka Fisher in Ma'or Shabbos Chelik Dav Amatuf Tavkov Peivav also says breaking a disposable pan is soisa, which is also l'shitasai in the same sefer. He says that you're allowed to use a disposable becha for kiddush because disposable is a shem keli. So our question, the very fundamental one, is a disposable item, pan, plastic cup, plastic fork, a keli or not, is machlekes of gedolei haposkim. And it's understandable, both stadim are easy to understand. Now, what I will say is when you don't break it, just fold it is okay. Also, someone asked me if he has a plastic cup and when he picked it up, it's squeezed in. So maybe it's broken and he's fixing it. I said it's not broken, just like if you had someone sits in it, it's not broken, so you're allowed to fix it. So it has to be broken to be fixed. But crushing it, destroying it, is a problem like many shitas. Now the emes, when you have 10 pans, put one in the other, so you only end up with one big one stacked high. That's much easier to deal with. Okay, question. his door was jammed, and he can't open it. Can he break the lock? So this is a problem. This probably could be soisa, keli, mechubal karka, amanas livnais, because you have to get it out to put in another one. So basically, use a different door. In fact, the Paiskim discussed if an aronkodesh, the lock was jammed, to break the lock to get to a Sefer Torah. Because if you assume, again, it's soisa, amanas livnais, then it would be a melacha deraisa. Because what you do is you break open the lock and therefore it falls apart. Then you could put the new lock in. Even at the akum, there's no heta of an istur deraisa at the akum. Now, lamaisa, this is the earlier Paiskim discussed this. The Shari Tshuva already quotes Deis that lamaisa it's a problem even regarding an aronkodesh. The Shari Tshuva is in Shin Yodal Tifkot and Zayin. He quotes a Zera Emes, similar to Zayin. But one thing I will say, if a child is locked into a room, Mishtabur and Shin Chav Ches Tifkot and Lamed Ches says that very clearly that could be a sakana. The child feels he's trapped. He could, lose his mind. So then you'll not even break a door, even Adar Yisro. To be mekel by an aronkodesh, some would be mekel if you soiser it, Adi akum for a tzorich of a rabbim, that might be a heta. But again, for makom pekuach nefesh, don't call the guy, have the yid do it as soon as possible to remove the danger, chas v'shalom. And let me leave you with a few hours I would like to hear from the Olam, because these are questions that come up. I'd like to hear a little guidance. First one is an interesting shayla. The minig was for Doiris that people got married Erev Shabbos and they got to sue this Shabbos. One of the Bein Yeshiva told me his parents got married here in America Erev Shabbos. Bekitza, the Ramah, the Paiskim discussed, let's say the chuppah was delayed and they got married on Shabbos. You're allowed to, even though ain't mekachim b'Shabbos, but once you start, you're allowed to conclude it. So the interesting shayla that comes up is, when you're making a chuppah on Shabbos, can the chassan break the glass at the end of the chuppah? Now, you're laughing, but you want to do things right. There's no how to take pictures on Shabbos, but break the glass. So we think, what, breaking a glass? It's not a mustaki. It's not a choisel. That's different. And it's a real keli. It's not disposable. True, but let's think. What is the worst scenario that he's doing? He's soisa a keli, right? Now, he's not breaking it to save a piece to put a souvenir on his wall. He's breaking it l'shem kilkul. Maybe it's a kilkul at tzarech Shabbos. So, you might say, why is it tzarech Shabbos? It's a tzarech minig. But you might have a different time. The same Gemara that we mentioned, Mekalkel, and it's a whole beautiful sugya. If someone breaks something to vent his frustration, let out his anger. So Gemara says it's a terrible thing to do. You're feeding your Yetzer Hara. But Lamaisa, that's a masakin, because you relaxed. If someone writes his Kriya Rachmana Litzlan on Shabbos, so it's a masakin. If someone does Mila Shlei Bizmana on Shabbos, Chas v'Shalom, it's a masakin. So maybe breaking the glass would be a masakin. So I looked into this, and Rabbi Yashiv in the Sefer Ashri Ish in Ebenezer Amud Kuf Yud Ches, he says, this is a lashon that I quote, Yitachen she'ein issa lishbar kais v'gam kal yoysa mi mekalkel. I'm not sure why it's kal yoysa mi mekalkel, but I do understand where he's coming from, why it's mutter. Because kriya, you're doing the positive act of making kriya. You want to get out anger, so you break a keli. Here the minig is to destroy. So it's a real minig of destroying. So what's wrong? It's a mekalkel at tzarech Shabbos. Grad, it happens to be a keli goma, which makes it a problem. But a mekalkel at tzarech Shabbos, l'chayra, this is the issue. He quotes from the Cheshukei Chemed and Ksubas Amanayin. I don't have access to that, but if you see anything different, Svar AdarII. Second question, which I really need the Olam's help. This is a ketchup bottle, as you see. This is the white cap, okay, and this is a safety seal. Okay, so let's say you need this on Shabbos, tzarech Shabbos, oichel. So taking off the safety seal is no problem whatsoever. But in this sefer, Pia Pascha B'Chachma, he says something that, is very mustavra. And he basically says that taking off this cap is fine. Taking off the safety seal is fine. But screwing this back on to be able to use it is a problem of Makah B'Patish. Now let me explain. He writes, I know it's a Chiddush, but this in page Pei Dal of Pia Pascha B'Chachma. He says, right now, this bottle is really obstructed by this safety seal. So this bottle is not working in sync with the white cap. The bottle's a bottle, the cap is a cap, but it's not working together. When you take off the seal and you screw this on and you don't open it up again, you're making a functional bottle. In other words, what he says is, if you open a salt shaker, sugar shaker to put in salt or sugar, but you open it and close it all the time, so you're not making it. Here, you take it off, putting it back on, you're making a ketchup bottle that's functional, and then you use it until it ends, and you throw it in the garbage. So this would be makabel patish of the ketchup bottle. Now, this is what he wants to say. Now, lamaisa, to me, if the bottle is usable as it is, which it is, so this is just as an accessory. But is this? Would you say the bottle is missing makabel patish? But then again, this is a much better way of using it than pouring it out, because it comes in. This is also made. Both are made. Wait, no. What he does say, I forgot to mention, this is like a mita shel prakim. You're taking two pieces and putting it together. A folding chair you're allowed to open up because it's one piece. So this is what he says. AdarII, if you have something nice to say, please tell me. But I do think a pretty good svar might be that this is really functional, and this is functional. The case of mita shel prakim, you have two non-entities you're putting together. This one could be used. Also, the Piskei Tshuvas Amud Reish Sadekei, he doesn't speak about ketchup, but he talks about salt shakers, sugar shakers. He says, B'chlal, something that havraga that's nasa b'chayzik u'b'gvura, that could be makabel patish. But this just screws on. See, this is the patent of plastic. It's just like screwing it on. 2 or 3 turns, it's on. But it's forever. It's permanent. So that's the aura to think about. AdarII, I'd love to hear more about that. Now, lamaisa, it's not the end of the world for the ketchup. You have 1 or 2 choices. Either you puncture something thin through the hole and puncture the safety seal, then nothing changed. You didn't make anything. Or open it, take off the safety seal, and use the ketchup like this. Question number 3, also a very interesting shaila. I saw this in Hilchos Shabbos b'Shabbos Amud Nun Chelik Beis Amud Nun from Moshe Motkakab and the Pia Pascha B'Chachma Amud Rei Zayin. I didn't have it in my house to bring it, but they sell together when they sell the instant soups. They have a small disposable fork. Basically, it's hard to describe, but it's one piece that's folded in half. You're supposed to open it and snap something in place, and then you could use it. So both these poskim say that's a makabel patish, because even though it's one piece, it was never made. By snapping it in, that's b'chayzik, you're making a fork. Now again, that's a bigger chiddush than till now, because this should be like a folding chair, it's all one piece. But he's saying it was never made into a functional fork, it was folded in half. They both consider that a makabel patish of a keli. Now, if you hold that it's disposable, it's less of a problem, but again, as we said earlier, even disposable is a problem of makabel patish. Well, I said this to lead to the last question. This is in Yana D'Yoma, a question that comes up every Yom Tov. And that is for those that use this floating wicks, which I did bring. This is the wick. It's basically a wick with a little wax on it. And this is the cork, we'll call it. And you put the wick through the cork, and then you do it, and it works. So the shaila is of course, Shabbos is not a shaila, you don't make wicks on Shabbos, but Yom Tov, second night, first night, whatever it is, can you put this wick through the cork to use it? So the emes is, some poskim, the halachic poskim, of course, say this is a real makabel patish. It's chad pami, it's disposable, but that we saw that making a chad pami is a vadan issa, no different than kis and lachs b'shinav. So this is why those poskim hold you have to do it before Yom Tov. However, there's much more tzad to be mekel, because this wick is functional as it is. This is basically it makes it easier. You're not completing its use. It can be used as it is. Now the machmirim hold, but the use is together, because it's very hard to make it work. But what I think is important to mention is that all agree, if you have this cork, sometimes the hole was not punched out, it came with this piece in, and you push the wick through, you're actually making this cork. That would be a melacha gomer. But Lamaisa, using this, there's definitely a tzad to be mekel because the keli is useful. Rav Vosna has another whole svara that it's not really you're making into a new keli. The keli was made, and this again helps it float. But one thing I will say, which I try to do also, besides that, it's kedai to machma if you can. But the Kvega brings, quoting a Mishnah, a makar to the Zoya, that the husband is supposed to prepare the neiris before Shabbos. Because it says, Nasha have the three mitzvahs of Chala, Nida, and Hadlokas Ner. So why Hadlokas Ner? Why not Chala, Nida, and Ner? This is the remes for the Zoya that the husband has to prepare the neiris, she has to light. So the second night, we always miss that schus if we don't prepare the neiris. So I always make the wicks at least, so you can be yoitz with that. I go and talk to you all.
Shame Irgen Shirt, like a big extra character of Smith for today's share. To have the great schos of sponsoring a share, call Irgen Shirt, 718-851-8651, or email ist@yeshivanet.com. And I'm going to cash him out like this Bogle Zakis, this is Shirley Pikin, and I'm Mr. Nemas, and Chavitz Matzitkai, Yagdol Terviader.
Hey!
Okay, Rabbi Sikkim on the share of constructive destruction of Shabbos. The Sikkim will only be constructive.
We learned today, Bez Hashem. First of all, we saw the Mekalkel and Saisa are both Isurei D'Rabbanan. Saisa Kareya of Mekalkel are both Isurei D'Rabbanan, but not a pushover. The only heta is if it's a Tzarech Achila, or some say Tzarech Shabbos, but Stam Kareya or Saisa Shalei L'Tzarech is a problem. We saw that Tosefta is matir, or Al Piachavius, the Mishnah Shabbos was matir, breaking a flimsy keli, or the het of mustaki, which is basically, it doesn't have a full shem keli, but basically tearing v'tzarech achil is vade mutter, that's why safety seals, if you avoid the lettering, is mutter. Some open before Shabbos to be chodesh v'prichodesh, as we said, but lamaisa, safety seals across the board are mutter. Even on the line, if it just makes it easier to tear, not making an item out of the tearing on the lines. Pulling a tab of a plastic container that prepackaged nuts, candy, etc. is a problem. You're making the keli, like a box of tissue that you're making the opening to take out the tissues. A string on a box of matzah, tear it in a destructive way, as opposed to the tape on a bag, sama machmir, because you're remaking the bag that was ice bag. Tearing tablecloths should not be done idea akum, especially in the shul. It's inappropriate. It should be done before Shabbos. The Rav holds that any kareya on plastic, paper, and leather there's no issa, but of course mechatech, even like the Rav, is vadei osa. A corkscrew is perfectly mutter. Some hold only food is mutter. The chayra, cups, plates would be in part of atzarech achila. The nafmina would be letters or kuntresim. Is there had to tear the plastic, the wrapping around it. We don't open envelopes on Shabbos unless aydei akum b'mokim tzarech. That would be mutter l'chayra l'chol hadayis. An airmail, which you're making the letter, is much worse. The paper towel is a problem if you tear it off the roll, but using it in shul is mutter because it's at most a suffix sikresha, but it's a mekalkel. Spider web should be removed before Shabbos but if it's not done, it's mutter on Shabbos if it's distressing. The fundamental shaila is disposable, a keli or a mustaki, that we saw at machlokes hapoiskim. Folding the pan is not a problem. Destroying it is totally this machlokes. I forgot to mention, to break a disposable fork is a problem. Like some is saisa keli. And also people bite on it and leave it on the table, and then it's muktzah, and then you're gonna it's not nice for other people. But basically, breaking a mustaki is muta, b'tzayrich. Breaking disposable is machlokes the halachic hapoiskim. Breaking a lock in a door of an aronkodesh is a real soisa of a keli. If a child's locked in, do whatever is necessary to put an end to the misery right away. Breaking a glass by the chuppah l'char should be muta. The ketchup, we had a stickle of a tzarachian about that, and the soup spoon snapping back into place. Floating, which I do say the minig is to be mekel. If you do it before Yom Tov, tavei labrach. That was the rub. Be out, man.